Welcome to Unpopped Review, movie reviews for movie lover and not a movie critic. DC Films is at it again with the next movie in the DC Extended Universe. This is Suicide Squad. In Suicide Squad, the US government forms a team of misfits and villains with the hope to take out threats too dangerous for other superheroes. So like always, to start by talking about the good, DC's characters. It is extremely well known that DC has the best villains, and having them all on one screen together was really amazing. Having Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Killer Croc, the Joker, and for the most part the actors playing them were great. Especially as many expected, Margot Robbie is Harley Quinn, and all of them were like a comic book come to life. There were some small exceptions, most notably the Joker, which was a much different characterization than normal, but it was still really good. And I can't go on until I talk about Viola Davis as Amanda Waller. She was probably the closest character to any comic book. She was absolutely perfect. She was intimidating, she was cool, she was ruthless. It was absolutely amazing to see some of the crazy stuff she would do to manipulate people to do what she wants. The humor. This was definitely the best part of Suicide Squad. From Will Smith's quips to Harley Quinn's craziness. This was the most welcome part to the DC universe. Next, let's talk about the music. Much like in Guardians of the Galaxy, this movie takes advantage of great music. And oftentimes many of the characters and scenes were driven by the music that was chosen for them. And overall, it was just a great use, and I'm sure they're going to sell tons of albums of just the music. And with that, let's move on to the pacing, especially in the beginning. I'm not going to give anything away, but let me describe kind of what happens at the beginning of the movie. First, we're introduced to all the villains. Then in the very next scene, we're introduced to Amanda Waller, who is introducing all the villains. Then in the next scene, Amanda Waller is introducing the villains to a different group of people. And then when they're gathered all together, we're introduced to them again. It was just really weird, redundant, and could have been streamlined a lot better. I hate to make this comparison, but in Guardians of the Galaxy, we see all the characters, they interact, and then later we are introduced to kind of where they came from, kind of what they're doing, but overall we don't get any origins and know exactly how they got there. And I think that worked perfect for Guardians of the Galaxy, and they could have done roughly the same thing in Suicide Squad. And with the pacing, there are a lot of small moments that don't really connect to anything. For example, a lot of the one-liners and jokes that were featured in the trailer are just that. They're not part of anything before or after. Sometimes it is literally cut to that scene, do it, and cut away. And it just made for real jarring pacing throughout the movie. Next, let's talk about the script. Some of the bad parts of the script were actually shown in the trailer, like when Will Smith says, "So we're going to be some kind of Suicide Squad," or when Margot Robbie says, "We're bad guys, remember?" Those are small examples of how bad the script sometimes gets. There's one part where someone says, "You are evil," and says it pretty much exactly like that. And then there's another character that says, "Now we can get this done." It was just kind of odd and awkward. They would say things and do things that didn't really fit with their character or that part of the story. And the last part of the let's talk about Will Smith. Now, I love Will Smith. I love almost everything that he does. Unfortunately, in this movie, he really Will Smithed it up. And not that I hate that his character was sometimes the funniest, but it's just that that really isn't Deadshot. Even though his character had cool moments sometimes, it just wasn't perfect having Will Smith play the role. Now let's move on to the ugly. The plot for the Joker. Now I already did kind of mention how the Joker was really different in this movie than others, and how I did kind of like it. But that being said, I wish he had more of a role. And I understand you gotta sometimes save the best villains for later, but everything he did in this movie was completely inconsequential to the plot. He would appear, the plot would stop, he would kind of do his thing, he would be taken care of, and then the movie would finally move on. It just didn't help at all with some of the pacing of the plot. And lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about the bad guy's plan. Now, I'm not going to give anything away because I think the trailers have done a great job kind of hiding what happens in the movie. But I will say that the plot overall is generic, cliche, and overdone. In fact, it's already been done once this year in a blockbuster movie, and it's done probably 2 or 3 times every single year. And if any movie should have done something different, it should have been Suicide Squad. So it was just really disappointing that the bad guy's plot wasn't something more than it was. And I know I've ragged on this movie quite a bit, but I did really like it. I love the characters. As I said before, that was my favorite part. Seeing them interacting with each other, seeing them fight together, it was all perfect. And that makes up for many of the faults and flaws of the movie. So although it definitely does have its problems, it is so far the best movie in the DC Extended Universe. And I'm excited excited to see a second one, and I'm excited for people to love this. I just wish that some of the problems could be addressed and fixed. So all that being said, I say that Suicide Squad is worthy to see in theaters. That's what I thought of Suicide Squad. What did you think? And besides the Joker, who is your favorite DC villain? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember to always keep it unpopped.